Hello, my name is Catherine Loke and this is Ian Lander. We are from the practice Lander Loke Architects. I've been in practice in Singapore since 1993 and Ian since 1969. Our practice is a two-person practice. We have no staff, but we're still able to do fairly substantial projects. And part of the reason we can do that is because we use Archicad. Why do you use BIM?
Basically because it's available, but because it's a handy tool. Same as before we didn't have BIM, it was set square, T square, drafting machine, AutoCAD drawing, and I stress drawing still, and then modeling. Archicad modeling was far superior. It's intuitive, it's easy, it's hands-on, can be used at every stage of the project, and it basically manages the documentation with very little further input.
Well, I think we have always, throughout our practice, we have always done our own drawings, even before we started using BIM. And we always believe that the architect must do our own drawings because it is from our ideas that the ideas come from us, and this is where we have to convey our ideas to other people. So we always did our own drawings. But why we use BIM is because in the past, using other tools, we had to involve a lot more other people because sometimes the work was so much that we cannot do it all on our own. But using BIM allows us to actually go back to the traditional role of the architect, being able to control everything, being able to generate all the outputs from just this one software. So to us, it's an irony that using something modern, we can actually recapture the traditional role of the architect, which is like thousands of years old. We design using BIM, so we model, and the software is actually generating the documentation for us. So now, instead of, like in the past, things happen in stages. We had the design stage, then we had documentation stage, submissions, then after that we go to construction. But now everything is happening simultaneously. Instead of going step by step, while we're designing, the documentation is also happening. So it's no longer this sort of it's not the factory line production process anymore. Now it's more integrated. What do you?
No, I agree. And the model builds up as you develop the design, and as the model builds up, the documentation is generated.
Yeah, and our model actually gets more and more detailed as we go further into the project, and when we get to the construction stage, as we get more information from the contractor as well, then we put in more and more information into the model, and then it starts looking more and more real as well.
I think the streamlining, where previously you even just moving a door in plan with drawing, then you have to redraft that in elevation and in section and do it by projecting the plan to the section. Very tedious, and you might forget to do one or other, end up with discrepancy. Whereas when you move something in a model, it's moved in every view, whether you're taking further sections, elevations, or whatever.
Yeah, and we can also anticipate problems. Like when we're in the process of design, we'll see certain things, and we can then anticipate and prevent problems on site. So those were the things that we couldn't do when we were drawing in 2D in the past. So in that way, we are able to resolve a lot of things at design stage before it even gets to construction.
I think the other thing was when one sees a conflict in a drawing, it was done by a draftsman or a technician or someone else, then they may resolve it in a way that creates another clash or a way that we don't like the design output, whereas doing it yourself, you make that decision.
Yeah, we're more able to control the design and then the downstream, the information that gets sent to the people who are going to do it. Yeah, we'll tell you something about the WoHub Technical Hub, which we just completed. So it's a project which is about 13,500 square meters. And normally for a project of this size, we would need a team of maybe an architect, an assistant, and then maybe 3 draftsmen in the past, or something like that. But in our office, it's just the 2 of us. We don't have any draftsmen, and we basically just handle it ourselves. Generally 2 of us or 1.5 of us, because it wasn't both of us full time. And we model everything. What we tend to do now using BIM is to model everything right down to the last, all the detailing
We'll
and all
start
the
with the beginning.
Yeah,
The footings,
yeah,
the piles, the pile cap, the ground beam.
yeah, everything. And for this project, it's quite interesting because there's a combination of precast structure as well as mass engineered timber. So there are certain sort of tricky junctions between the 2 different materials, and also how the services are then run. So we model all of that to the degree that we could then generate the details, the 2D plans, elevation sections, details, without doing any 2D drafting at all. So all the details and documentation were all generated from the model itself. And in that way, we can make sure that the information given is correct, that it will be built correctly.
Master Builder, I think Virtual Builder, because all we built was a model, a virtual model, but we build it in a way that the building itself will be built. And particularly with MET, the beams, for example, are not continuous beams. They're all simply supported beams, post and beam type of structure and bracing. So these were all modelled the way they will be built and assembled. And our information was then sent to the MET specialist in
Austria.
Austria.
Yeah, so that was
So
important
they're
as well.
cutting schedules.
That was important because we needed to coordinate the penetrations. So we modeled all the openings and every element, and then that was given to the supplier so that they could fabricate it in Austria and then ship it to Singapore. Yeah. And even simple things, even freestanding objects or simple things like fire extinguishers, we would put into our model to make sure everything is aligned. So as the architect, it has given us back that control that everything in the building has to be in the correct place. So and correct alignment, and we are able to express this by modeling it and then conveying it to the builder. For WoHub Technical Hub, we also use BIM actually to coordinate with other consultants. So the reality is the state of the industry is that not everyone is using BIM, and even if they are using BIM, they are not necessarily using the same tool. But what we find really useful in Archicad is that it is able to export in so many different formats. So for most people, they are most comfortable with PDF. So most of our drawings are issued in PDF. But the industry is still very comfortable with using DWG, 2D drafting. So a lot of the subcontractors and consultants as well prefer us to give them DWG files, which we do. And that saves them a lot of time in having to redraw, and it also saves us a lot of time in having to check whether their base drawing is correct. And then we also have some consultants who like to use SketchUp, so we can also export in SketchUp to them. And then for those who are comfortable using BIM and want the geometry, we can export in IFC. And then we also export schedules, quantities, various measurements in Excel. And for the layman or even for the builder, we sometimes also give them the BIMX file, which they can then carry around in their mobile phones or in their iPads or tablets as a quick reference. And for the layman, it's very, very user-friendly. They can just download BIMX for free. and it helps them to understand the design. So we find that with this kind of flexibility, it's very, very important because it allows us to adapt to different consultants. We don't expect all consultants who work with us to use the same tool. That's not the reality. So what we do is keep ourselves quite flexible and remember that the most important thing is that we want to communicate our design. So whichever way is best to communicate our design, we will use it in whatever form that the other party is comfortable with. We are equally adaptable and we can just export the information in that format. So that is actually the most important thing. It's not using BIM for BIM's sake. It's using BIM as a way to enable us to communicate with our people. To get the most out of Archicad, I think there needs to be a change in practice structure. So in the olden days, practices were organized into different departments. You might have a design department, a documentation department, a compliance department. Because the documentation part was really, really very, very laborious. And most firms would need a big team of draftsmen to do all the drafting. But now, using Archicad, because the source is just that one file, from the one file we are able to generate perspectives, we're able to do the documentation, we're able to do our submission drawings. So in a way, it's made the workflow more integrated.
Teamwork.
Yeah, and so we use teamwork for the WoHub Technical Hub project. Both of us can actually work simultaneously on the file using teamwork. And the teamwork platform actually means that if more than one person can work on the file simultaneously, you don't even need to be in the same room. So you can actually be collaborating with someone in another office and even someone in another country. So it has actually opened up a lot of opportunities for us to be able to collaborate, especially as a small practice where we don't necessarily want to have a lot of people in the practice, but we can then pick and choose who we want to work with, and even look at who we can work with internationally as well. We use Archicad because it's actually quite intuitive. I mean, BIM software typically has to be complex because it needs to behave intelligently. So there are quite a number of settings and things that you will inevitably have to do if you want the model to be intelligent. But Archicad is designed by architects for architects. So in a way, it then is in line with the way architects think. So it then makes it something that is a tool that actually makes us better architects. So it's not just the degree of detail that we provide now is much, much more than we ever did. Because in the past, if we had to do 2D drawings and we have limited time or limited resources, then we can only do so many drawings. But by using Archicad, now we are producing more than ever. Every little thing, every little corner, even the perspectives as well, we find that a very useful tool to convey the information to the builder and to the client. We had one project where we actually produced like 300 over perspectives of every room, and anything that we needed to explain to the client, including different options. We could
generate from Archicad.
Yes, and it was generated from Archicad. We could never have done that if we were still, trying to do 2D drawings and after that separately trying to do perspectives. But using Archicad's rendering tool as well, it's become not just a tool for creating the nice portfolio pictures, but also a very, very important communication tool for us to explain to the client what the design is and also to explain to the builder what they are building, because quite often the builder cannot imagine what they are building as well. So the rendering tool is actually quite a big bonus, and the quality of rendering is so realistic now that you can hardly tell the difference between the real thing and the rendering. Well, I think the most important thing is to know why you're using BIM. Yeah, don't just use it because somebody told you to use it or you heard that it's good, but Use it because there is something that you want to achieve, and then use it in a manner that suits you best. The tool is only a tool, and it's more important that you know why you want to use it and how you're going to use it. That's more important than actually just using it for the sake of, saying that you use BIM.